All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. My name is Tay. I'll be your host today. Can you guys introduce yourselves, please?
I'm Linda Wilson from Denver.
I'm Sierra Lewis from Kentucky.
And Ty.
Hi, I am just hearing. It's just a brief introduction.
Yes,
Yes, I am Ty Salvant from New Orleans, Louisiana, and I am excited to be a part of this book.
Yeah, we are very excited to have you guys. So we can go ahead and get started. So, what inspired you to contribute your story to this series, The Heart of a Mother? Starting with Sierra.
What inspired me was my mom's always been my hero, and I just feel like there's never enough that I can do for her, or even be able to show my love. And so I feel like every year, every day, it's a challenge just to try to show her how much she means to me. But I felt like this kind of gave me a little bit more of a space to do that, and not only just let her know, but let the world know how much she means to me, and how she's always been there for me.
Okay, that sounds very inspiring. Um, Ty.
For me, it was a couple of things. So one, definitely my mom. Right after my 30th birthday, she mentioned that she thought I would have written a book by now.
Mhm.
And so then every couple of years, I'd wonder if I ever wrote a book, what would it be about? And the first book that I wrote was a guided journal for moms called A Mother's Reflection, where it walked you through the mother you had, the mother you are, and if you're being the mom you want to be. Um,
Mhm.
just to help us see our mothers as women, and a lot of women do that once they become mothers, but it doesn't have to take that long, right? And through that process, it really had me on a mission to make sure that we are including self care and self compassion. And when we define motherhood, so that we raise boys with realistic expectations and girls who are not afraid to become mothers. And my mom did a really great job of modeling that. So it was a great way to incorporate all of those concepts as a part of this project.
You said, well, we'll go back over questions. Linda.
I what inspired me is I've had two amazing mothers, my mother and my mother-in-law, who have shaped my life for the last 45 years. And I lost my mom a couple of years ago, and my mother-in-law is going to be 92 in June. And those two ladies just modeled what motherhood meant, and even just what living as a woman meant. And they helped shape me. I was 18 when I got married, so and we would have been married 45 years this year. So it's just kind of a labor of love. I just wanted to introduce people to the women that made me who I am.
That sounds very, first of all, I apologize, and I offer my condolences.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
and can you describe the moment you knew this was a story that you needed to tell? Whatever inspired you to write this story? What uh what was it about that moment that made you want to share your story?
I think I've been wanting to share it for a
Linda.
while, and then realizing that mom's going to be 92, and she needs to just hear more about how I felt. Um, And it just seemed like the right time to bring it out. So.
Fear or Ty, would you like to share anything
For
on
me,
what made you this moment?
for me, it was about, like I said, the journey I've gone through with my mom, her helping me to become a mom myself. And I feel like, again, this was the right time for me to kind of more express that in words that I may not be able to say to her very often. And just to let her know again, how much I truly, truly care about her, and how much she's appreciated.
And before I start, I think there are a couple of people in the backstage, um, if they can be let in.
Oh,
For
yep.
me, thank you. The timing, when I saw this, I've been toying around with writing a book that shares more information about like that journal that I wrote. And this was a great way to get my feet wet into turning some of those experiences into a full chapter to see what that would look like. I also have a lot of friends and see a lot of women who struggle with motherhood, and like it it can be so beautiful, right? But we just
Right.
have to parent differently and mother differently. And so being a part of a project that allows women to share that motherhood looks different for different women in different seasons of their lives with different, financial situations, it felt really good.
Right. For the newcomers, can you please introduce yourself and explain why you decided to share your story with this series? Starting with Evelina.
Hello, everyone. I'm Evelina. This is my second collaborative book. I'm so excited to be a part of A Heart of a Mother. And I also am doing Letters to Him that's coming out for Father's Day. I am the founder of Soul to Soul and Shine Your Light youth programs and summer camp, as well as I'm a empowerment coach for youth and parents. And I'm a speaker. I do a lot of things. I'm an educator, so I'm all the things. And I'm from New Braunfels, Texas. That's where I'm calling in from. The reason I chose to do this book is a few different reasons. One is to pay homage to my grandmother, my late grandmother, who passed away in September. She was the heart of our family, and she was the matriarch. She was my last grandparent left, and she got to live 92 full years of life. But it's just so sad to not have her around. She's pretty much a second mother to me. I love her so much. And then, of course, my mom is my shiro, and I just wanted to be able to honor her and my abuela, because they both have impacted my life in ways, through faith and their sacrifice and their strength and just the powerful lessons that they've taught me. And so that's the reason I chose to do this book.
Oh, thank you. January, would you like to go next?
Aloha, everyone. I'm January from Hawaii, Oahu, Hawaii. I chose to write this book because I feel that motherhood is such a special chapter in so many of our lives, and for me, it was a great experience. I've had a great experience, and I love my two little ones. They're my inspiration for writing this book, um, Sammy and Nina. We also are a military family, and so as a military wife, the things that I've gone through as a mom is was very challenging. My husband's retired now, and so I do speak to military moms who oftentimes have to go it alone sometimes when their husbands are deployed. My husband was deployed 8 times within our marriage, and so that was 16 years of marriage within the Army, and we're going on our 20th year together. So motherhood is definitely a very special moment, And, I thought, why not? I'm going to do it. And so, yeah, so I just jumped to the opportunity, and just felt it was really good, a good way to share like my love notes to my children.
Thank you. And Sonia, can you please introduce yourself and why you decided to share your story?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Sonia Rodriguez. I'm a psychotherapist, women's life transition coach, and I'm from New Jersey. And a little bit of what January shared is just, I feel like being a mother is just so powerful, and it comes with so many wonderful moments, but also so many challenges. And so I really wanted to write about that. I also have an amazing relationship with my own mother, and I talked in my chapter about the power of connection with a mother or mother like figure. And so I thought it was just really important to be able to share, some of the highlights of being a mom, as well as, the everyday challenges that we all face as being a mother. I'm a mother of three, so it was
Thank
so
you.
nice to be a part
Thank you
of
for
this.
sharing
Yeah.
all of your stories. Now, these books explore everyday strength and silent sacrifices. So, what does all that mean to you all personally? You can start with Evelina.
One more time, the question. I was listening to what you had to say because you're cutting out.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I said this book explores everyday strength and silent sacrifices. So, what does that mean to you all personally?
I love, and I'm just echoing a lot of what the authors have said, but to be a mother and to go through that whole process. I have a daughter, she's 13, and I wasn't originally supposed to be able to have children. So just hoping and wishing and praying to have her here. And then when she came, I mean, the amount of strength it takes to be able to carry a child, to deliver a child, like, is incredible. And I highlighted the strength and sacrifice across the generations, and just seeing like all the sacrifices that my grandparents, my grandma's made, even to have me be able to do the things that I'm doing now. Like, never in a million years do I think they ever thought that their names would be published in a book and that I would carry the torch through their legacy. And I hope and pray that the lessons that they've instilled in me, I'm passing down to my daughter, who is now 13. But, there's just so much. I mean, when a child is born, you give up pretty much a lot of what you want to do, and everything is focused now on them. And each generation hope that they have it better and they surpass you. And that's what we're doing now, just being here and doing this. And I pray that my daughter will go even further than we have gone. And so strength and sacrifice, I mean, is a true definition of a mom.
Anybody else? Thank you.
I can go. Um, Strength and sacrifice. I mean, I watched my mother and my mother-in-law. My mom was a nurse. She was the oldest of nine, and then she got married and raised us, and then she went back to nursing, and she spent her entire life caring for other people. And my mother-in-law was a military mom, so she was a military spouse, and they traveled all over the world. And in the 50s and 60s, she was an officer's wife, so a lot of that, you entertained, you did things with the officers' clubs and their wives, and you had all of those things. And she was taking care of her family while her husband was overseas. And what I got from a lot of that was, even as you get older, I mean, you're always a mom. Once a mom, you're always a mom. It doesn't matter how old your kids are. Mine's 44, he's going to be 45. And you never stop being a mom. And so I've had a lot of health challenges. My husband had a lot of health challenges. And my mom and his mom, they were always there for us. I mean, we're adults, but they were always there for us when we needed something because they're still our moms, and they can't just sit back and, I mean, we had some pretty serious health things going on, and so they would come across the country and try to, my mom would come out and nurse, and Darlene would come out and take care of everything else. And maybe it's a generational thing, but a lot of things, I know women in my mom's age group and even in my age group, when you become a mom, you pretty much give up everything else about yourself, and there's nothing wrong with being a mom, but to be defined as being a mom when you have other things that you are as well, you kind of lose yourself being that mom. And I know you ladies all know what that means, right? Mom first, last, and always, and then whatever else it is that you're working on finds itself in the nooks and crannies, right? So when I think about the sacrifice and service that they both did, that just empowered me to do the work that I do.
So I'd love to share a slightly different perspective. My mom was a single mom most of her life, but really modeled taking care of herself as well as taking care of us and meeting all of our needs and many of our wants. But again, while taking care of herself. And so I'm a mom of 6. My youngest is 6. My oldest is 23. And I did, even though I went into motherhood with the intention not to lose myself, I found myself losing myself when you just get caught up in that role of mom. But then when that happened, I pulled back and became really reflective and thought, am I creating the memories that I want to with my kids? Have I taught them everything I want them to know? And again, a huge part of that was for my boys to have realistic expectations of future partners. So they were not going to their wives saying, but my mama did it. Right. So I was like, okay, wait, let's hold up. How can I honor all of us and teach you how to love me and let me be a full version of myself while being your mother? And it definitely takes a shift in our mindset of being able to do that, but it is so possible. And I get to volunteer and I'm a part of organizations and groups that are meaningful to me while homeschooling my kids and being a wife, so that we don't become solely defined by our role as mom. We can be a woman who is also a mother and a wife and a friend and a employer or employee or whatever it is, right? And I think it just takes a shift in our mindset to realize that, like, if we don't, it's so easy to give of ourselves so completely that we sacrifice, like, financially, physically, spiritually, mentally, and again, and lose ourselves in the process. And I didn't want to model that for my kids. So there are different ways of doing both, of it being a yes and not just a pouring out of.
Right. Does anybody else want to go? If not, we'll move on to the next.
I would just add, I agree. I think it's just so hard to find ways to do it all. And so while many of us know how important it is to take care of ourselves, if you're a working mother or a single mom, there's very limited time. And so I think that's something that we all struggle with. I'm a therapist and I talk about self-care all the time. And then when I try to integrate it into my own life, I say, this is really hard. But, you start with 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a couple hours or taking an afternoon off from work. So you really have to be creative to figure out ways to make it happen. But I do think it's so critical and to model that for our kids, because it is so important, and just to really highlight the importance of having a balance in the best way possible, this work life chaos balance in whatever way possible. So I think whatever we can do, 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, we need to make it happen.
Right. And do you think that a mother's love can change over time or evolve over time?
I do. I mean, and I think that we all grow and mature. I remember, and I think I share in my chapter, my mom was a young mom. And when we were younger, she had always said that she was not going to be the type of grandma who babysat, right? Like she had, she was taking care of us. And by the time that we were adults, that it was up to us to take care of our kids. And she matured and grew, and we have what we call Moni Wednesdays, where she comes over to the house every Wednesday to just hang out with us and do whatever, which is absolutely beautiful and something that I want to model for my own kids once I am a grandmother, right? Just to, again, and she sets her boundaries, right? She's like, she does Wednesdays with me, she does Saturdays with my brother. My sister's out of state, so she goes to her a couple of times a year and spends a week or two, but she still takes care of herself as well. But her love and expressions have definitely matured as she has matured as a person.
January, are you with us? I think so. Okay. Sierra, do you think that a mother's love can evolve over time?
Yes, absolutely, I do. I've definitely watched my mom try. Which me and my mom have always been best friends, but I feel like every year we've both grown, and it seems like that love changes every year. Um, I know, like when I first had my daughter, she was like scared to death. She wasn't really sure about it, but the second that I had her, it was an instant. Like she thinks it's her child now. And so my daughter is now 18, and the bond that the two of them have is literally like the same bond me and my mom had. And to be able to watch that just really warms my heart, especially because, like I said, it was kind of a challenging time for both of us when I had my daughter. I did have her kind of young. So, yes, I do. I do think a mother's love can change.
Okay. And what challenges did you face in telling such a personal story, and how did you overcome them? Anybody can go.
I think when you're writing, you write what makes sense, what feels right, and you're willing to share what you think will be helpful for other people, as well as, where you're at in your own healing process and what feels comfortable.
Anybody else?
I was gonna say, as a writer, I'm very mindful of what I share about other people when I write,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that if there is a story that I am sharing, like about my mom or about my, in here I mentioned like my grandmother and, of course, my kids, that it's not something that I would feel like I needed to explain to them as to like, oh, or like to say, oh, well, you're mentioned in a book, but I have to tell you this first, or I have to, right? So it's things that, and it's more about my journey or experience than theirs. Um, Certainly getting permission to share things that they might not want the world to know, even if you are, ready to share it with the world. I think for me plays a part in my writing, and my husband is my first, like, editor with everything, to be able to say, Okay, well, maybe you want to pull back on this, or maybe we don't want this out there. But I tend to think that like we learn from other people's experiences. So if I have something that I can share that would help somebody else, I'm certainly willing to share.
Right. What do you want future generations to understand about maternal love shared through this book?
It's it's timeless, and at least in my family, it's never ending. Um, we forgive the deed, we forgive the person, um, but once mom, always mom. I'm at least in our family, that's how it's always been, right? And it grows, it changes, it's flowing, but it's eternal. And even after they're gone, you can still feel their love. That's what I'm hoping to leave behind for my son.
I would add that it's just so powerful too. I think we think about what it's like to be a mom, but it's not until they're in our arms, and we're looking at them and saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can love someone so much." So I think it's so powerful to just be a mom and to understand, what it takes to be a good mom and to be there for them while navigating all of your own stuff. And it's also very helpful for us to understand our own dynamics with our own mothers, because I think we recognize, how hard it is, when we're in that same boat. But I would definitely say it's very powerful.
I would say it's a blessing for sure. I mean, thinking that you can never have a child and then be given that opportunity, that responsibility is just incredible because a lot of people wish and dream, to be able to do that and can't. And so the responsibility of motherhood is very rewarding. It's tough, but you hope that your children will see, because a lot of times my daughter will say, I'm never going to have kids. Like, no, I'm not going to have kids. But I mean, it's tough work, and I'm a single mom, but there is no better job in the world. I mean, to see all the things that she gets to do, and the struggles that we've gone through, and that God continues to carry her, and her excelling in these things that she was told she wouldn't be able to do, like just the job of a mom. And my mom and my grandmothers, I mean, they sacrificed so much to be able to allow us to do those things that we're able to do now. And I just, I do hope that this generation of kids coming up will realize, like, being a mom is not a burden. It's a true blessing.
I think it's beautiful, especially because it's something that is always changing. It's never a constant standstill. And I think once you have your own child, that it definitely just really opens up your eyes even more. And I think it really makes you appreciate your own mother, um, a lot more than you would have before, because you do start to see things that you might not have seen before or understand, before having your own child. Um, that as well as my grandma. My grandma also helped raise me, and so it was really beautiful being able to realize what the both of them went through.
And I think that there are a couple of things for me. One, that for the most part, and I put out there that there are women who are really broken when they become a mom, or struggle, or have addictions and things that don't allow them to be the mother that they desire to be. But for the most part, I think that as moms, we do the best that we can with the information and resources and tools that we have. And when we know better, we do better. Um, I know one of the things I share in my book is that I am not like, oh, my mom's the best mom in the world, or she's like this perfect person. No, I see her like flaws and all, and I love her like all the same. And she sees me and loves me for my imperfect self as well. And so, like, I want people to realize that as a mom, oh my gosh, there is really like nothing you wouldn't do to help your kids, right? I tell people all the time, when they would question, well, like, how can you homeschool? I'm like, you show me a mom that has a child with a new diagnosis, I will show you a new expert in that field, because we are going to do what we need to do to meet the needs of our kids. Having said that, somebody else shared earlier that we still deal with bosses and spouses and friends and trauma and drama and all of these other things too, right? And so it's not about being perfect. I think it's about showing up and knowing that we are willing to show up every day for our kids, and like you said, for the rest of our lives, right?
Um, what would you say has been the most meaningful response you've received since sharing your story?
I went ahead and surprised my mom. When we give moms Mother's Day presents, there's a lot of things that they can use and then they get rid of and they're done with. And I just thought this was a beautiful way to be able to carry on the legacy, right? The torch that they've lit, to be able to hand off the baton. And so she got super emotional because, like I said, her mom passed away, which is my grandmother, who was like a second mom to me. She passed away in September. And what my grandma would have done to have known, like, her sacrifices and like all that she's done and the lessons she's taught me, I've put into a book, because it impacted me so much. So I've gotten incredible response. I have a daughter who's watching every single thing I do and trying to be a role model for her, and all of you talking about self-care. I try to implement that because, in order for us to be able to give to others, we have to be replenished, refueled. And, a lot of that happens for me through exercise and faith. But, to be able to show her. But my daughter is so excited for me. She saw that we hit through the Kindle store like bestseller status, and she's just telling me how proud she was of me. And it's really cool to hear your 13-year-old tell you that. And then your mom, on the other hand, also so thankful. And I know my grandma is smiling down from heaven, both of them, my grandmas, my abuelas.
I think for me, it's that it's okay to, like, fully express the joys and struggles of motherhood, right? And that, because there's sometimes a picture painted that it's like, oh, like, it's so great, and it is, but when you're sleep deprived, like, life is really hard. Life is really hard, right? And just, I think the permission that women get from being able to talk about the the challenges of it, or again, like the difficulties of making time for self-care, but then realizing, hey, I'm a better mom once I've worked out or have prayed or have, done whatever it is, taken a nap, right?
So if you were to describe motherhood in one word, what would it be?
Courage.
Blessing.
Miracle.
Mm.
Rewarding.
Unpredictable.
I definitely agree with all of that. But That's all the time that we have for today. I thank you all so much for joining our platform and sharing your stories. Um, and we'll meet again. So thank you, and I hope you all have a good day.
Go out and buy the book. Grab your copy today on Amazon.
That's right.
Yes.
Can't wait to read
Everybody
everybody
grab a
else's
copy.
stories.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you all.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.